Ah, there you are. Right. So, Mama V is here, and we'll be getting into the newspapers.
There you are.
How you doing?
Okay, that was fake. I'm good.
I know.
How are you?
There you are. Where did you turn up from? You've been standing next to me for the past 5 minutes. Hey,
Yeah.
Are you auditioning for Uncle Ibo White or something?
I should. What do I look like?
I like that double take, you know. There you are.
Yeah, I'll be in Dora Wiper too.
Dora, because. All right, well, let's have a look at what's happening on the streets out there. And I think a good place to start, as always, is the Ring Road, where clearly things haven't yet started to get dramatic. Traffic is moving along in a fairly reasonable manner. The trotros, as always, are stopping on the shoulder, you know, in a very indiscriminate manner, which is bound to start making the traffic pile up before you know it. Right, let's see where else things are happening. And I think this is Tema. Yeah, this is the Tema end of the motorway. And, oh gosh, well, even though it's just reloading at the moment, it looks like it's quite calm. Let's go to another one. And, oh, here we go. So this is the usual view of the airport area. That's the airport shell right there. And, yeah, as always, traffic building up from the Polo Grounds towards the big roundabout, but even there, it's not really started to get problematic yet. And so, if you're heading that way, you're nearly there, you're watching us on your phones while you're in public transport or not driving a private car, then, well, good news for you. You can whiz through that quickly. Gifford Road next, and yeah, gosh, looking pretty calm, pretty cool. Okay, let's do one more, maybe. What else have we got? Yeah, Teta Kwashi, this is the big one. So again, for a Tuesday morning, it's looking fairly relaxed. That can only be a good thing, right? So if you're coming in from Medina, Adenta, beyond, there is hope for the future. There you go, and you can go to traffic.com.gh to see what else is going on in Accra. Right, let's get straight into the papers. Mama V has been perusing, haven't you? So, quite a few of them this morning, right?
Kidnapped the key suspects in the 3 kidnapped Takoradi girls being sentenced for, not for the substantive issue of kidnapping, but on a charge of escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one more. It's in almost all the papers. So let's start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Front page of the Graphic today. Suspected Tardy girls kidnapper jailed 36 months for cell break. Ghana card issuance takes off in Greater Accra. Kolibu Hospital granted operating license by HEFRA. We're dealing with kidnap cases. President Akufo-Addo addressing a delegation from the anti-corruption coalition at the Jubilee House in Accra. There's an inset of that interaction with the group on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper, and that's where he assured that he is dealing with the kidnap cases. Back page of the Daily Graphic, cotton sector to get $10 million boost. Kokroko Charities Foundation donates incubators to hospitals in northern Ghana. Also another story on the back page of the Daily Graphic. And then in the center spread, 2019 May Day celebrations. Workers start procession from Nkrumah interchange. We've got a big conversation on our show today. One of the things on the hearts of workers today, public workers, is pension. So we start a big conversation on that today. We'll hear from the TUC live on the show today.
Good stuff. Now, let's have a gander in the Ghanaian Times. Let's see what's cooking. I've also got the Daily Guide, the Dispatch, and perhaps I'll also mention the headlines in the Custodian. Be quick so we can settle for some discussion. Ghanaian Times has these. We'll deal with kidnappings, the President assures. This is the first time he's spoken on this, by the way. First time ever since the first girl disappeared in August. Alleged kidnapper jailed 18 months for jailbreak. GIS granted 30% IGF to address infrastructure operational needs. And Roxanne Bukari resigns over leaked tape. You will find the story in almost every paper this morning. Medina Adenta Highway bridges, one completed. It's been a few months since that matter became a national issue. Also, Ghana National Fire Service makes progress, is on the back page of the Ghanaian Times. Let's move along to the Daily Guide real quick. Daily Guide, please. And by the way, after the Daily Guide, we'll do the Dispatch, and then we'll do the Custodian. So, Daily Guide next. And Minister resigns over leaked tape. That's the banner headline. I told you it's everywhere. Nigerian kidnapper jailed 18 months. Parliament suspends vigilante bill. And NDC blows $95 million for free on oil wells. $95 million for free on oil wells. That's apparently how much NDC blew. Also, EC denies 25 new constituencies. And let's flip over the paper, see what's on the back of it. NC condemns Golden City violence, that's the Normalization Committee. Also, GFA NC bans Brekum Park. Junior golf records high numbers is also on the back page, alongside KK Pepra roofing supports Kotoko Okwewu game. And also, expect exciting ITF tour. McDan promises. That wraps it up for the Daily Guide, which means we can now have a look at the Daily Dispatch, which has, as its banner headline this morning, "It is on our agenda, but a decision has not been taken." That's the creation of new constituencies, according to the EC chair. Did a pastor steal a spoon? Story on page 2. And the Daily Dispatch certainly believes we ought to know the answer to that question. Also, double track system will suffer if we go on strike. That's what the TIWU chairman is saying. Also on the front page, Africa recorded 82 terrorist incidents in 2 weeks. Wow, 82. Right, creation of new constituencies. It is on our agenda. That story is on the back page. It also says Akufo-Addo pushing EC to create 25 new constituencies, and that is according to the minority. Also on the back page, Accra Catholic Archdiocese bids farewell to Most Reverend Palmer Buckle. I believe he's now taking up a post in Cape Coast.
Yes.
And I believe he will be missed. Finally, the Custodian. Ignore NDC propaganda on creation of new constituencies. That's according to Obi Amwa. Also on the front page, NIA mass registration for Ghana card begins. NDC wasted $95 million without oil find. That's according to the Deputy Minister. Maybe they should not include how much they spent on the Hertz deal, which has now become the ACA deal, which led to the discovery of oil. Maybe they shouldn't add that one, but that's just me trying to be objective. Zimbabwe schools accept goats for tuition fees. Isn't that nice? Can you imagine?
It is actually.
How many
We've
goats?
used goats in exchange for other things. So if it's for tuition, works, right?
I wonder if there are enough goats in the Accra abattoir to pay the school fees for one child at GIS.
I was going to say we will use it for school feeding, but the GIS where you pass now.
I mean,
I don't know.
Look, are there even enough goats? One child's school fees. How many goats would that buy?
I don't know. You should be telling us.
I don't know. I don't buy goats.
Let's finish up with the Finder and the Today newspaper. The Finder first, front page. Slow start as NIA's mass registration encounters teething challenges. Well, there are people who went to the centers not expecting that it will be asked for their birth certificates. Some people didn't have passports. Some people didn't have their TIN as well. That was certainly an issue. NPP and DC agree on scope of dialogue on disbanding party militias. On Talk this morning, we get some scoop from what happened yesterday. We will discuss this issue on our show this morning. Graphic condemns Ogwa Traditional Council for unlawful detention of reporter. Also another headline there in the paper. ECOWAS court upholds sack of 3 Supreme Court justices in Ghana. You're all well familiar with this story. These are 3 justices who were asked to go from ANAS's investigations back in 2015. Well, they took their case on And there's been a judgment from the ECOWAS court as well. Details in the final newspaper. The Today newspaper says mortuary workers strike again. Remember, there was an earlier one 3 days into the strike, sometime this month, early this month, they called off that strike to get into some negotiations with the Labour Commission. Well, they have a meeting with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission on Monday, but they say a day after May Day, they're going to hit the street. They won't work. They will be demonstrating. Tension in Mahia over building in middle of road, and mayor escapes death. Also another front page headline there, the Today newspaper. Okay. Kidnapper jail 3 years. Okay, is it the same story?
There is some confusion over how long he was jailed for. So the Ghanaian Times also says 18 months, but then we have 36 months in, is it the Daily Graphic?
Yeah.
So 36 months would be 3 years. So perhaps there were 2 sentences. I don't know.
No, there were actually. That's the facts.
Okay.
So the charges were 2. He was found guilty on 2 charges. I want to just read the exact charges. And for each, he got 18 months. But
Which
it's supposed to
means he
run concurrently.
That's why.
So it's 18 months.
So they are both kind of correct, aren't they?
Yeah. Except that he's not going to be spending 3 years in prison. That's what it is. So the first one, okay, on the charges, and I'm reading this from page 16, the Daily Graphic newspaper, story by my friend Duche Kobla Aklobato in Takrady. And I'm just going ahead to the exact point on the charges. He was convicted on 3 counts of escaping from lawful custody, causing damage to public property and resisting arrest. On the escaping from lawful custody, the court held the view that there was enough evidence to prove that he escaped from lawful custody. On the second count of causing damage to public property, the count held that the suspect, in his own evidence, said he was aided by an outsider with tools and oil to cut the metal bars to escape. But on the third one, he was acquitted and discharged, and that's for resisting arrest, as the police failed to provide enough evidence to warrant his conviction. So now that we have this cleared up the table, the courts, if you read details of this story, says that it paves way for the substantive matter of kidnapping to be heard. And for many of us, this was just this was the very tiny one. It's the main case that we're looking forward to. In the meantime, the 3 girls have still not been found. In the meantime, we're also expecting the CID boss, who boldly told us that they knew where the girls were and they will soon be reunited with their families, to do exactly what she said. But we're still here. How many weeks after that police press briefing, which you attended, with all the hopes and
Now, you know, Mama V, you just said something. You said it's the main case that we're looking forward to. Which main case?
Which are the charge of kidnapping?
Which charge of kidnapping?
As in?
He has not been charged with kidnapping.
No, he has not. But I'm saying that we're looking forward to the substantive matter.
That's the point I'm trying to make, that there is no substantive matter as we speak.
No, there isn't.
So
there isn't.
We may be looking forward to nothing, because there's no, I mean, can you explain why he was first arrested in December, I think on the 20-something of December. He escaped same month, arrested on 22nd, escaped on the 28th, rearrested in January, okay? Can you explain why, since his rearrest to date, he has not been charged with kidnapping? Now, bear in mind, when he was rearrested, he was found in an uncompleted building somewhere in Takrady. And close to that building, they found the clothing of the 3rd victim.
Really?
Yes. This is part of the report I did from Takrady. The police found the clothing of the 3rd victim close to the uncompleted building where he was rearrested. So, can you figure out a possible reason why, since that rearrest to date, he has not been charged with kidnapping?
I guess because there's no, and I don't want to go there. I was going to say because there's no victim, because there's no, but then again, that is maybe too technical. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe they don't have a good case.
Well, I mean, I'll bow to your superior knowledge of the law here.
Please don't bow to anything.
But if somebody kidnaps someone, the
alleged.
victim, I'm saying if somebody kidnaps someone, I haven't mentioned anybody's name. If somebody kidnaps someone, must the victim be present before the person can be charged with kidnapping?
I mean, I think it goes back to the evidence, right? It goes back to what they've been able to collect. If they can trace, if they can link him to all the evidence that they would have collected. But if they haven't gone to court on that, on the main issue, then it means they don't have enough.
So, by the way, it was through this third victim that Samuel Wills was connected to the crimes.
Okay.
Because the third victim's friend told police that this individual had befriended them both and was cultivating them, telling them about how they should study hard, and he would buy them gifts and take them on trips. That is how they connected him to the crime.
Okay.
He was first arrested, he was released, and then when he was rearrested, the clothing of the victim connecting him to the crime was found where he was rearrested. So, I mean, the Americans will say there was an orgy of evidence.
But was it enough?
Well, clearly an orgy was not enough for the police, because as we speak, the man has not been charged with kidnapping, and he may never be charged with kidnapping. So when we discuss him in the media and we say the alleged kidnapper, well, who has alleged that he's a kidnapper? Certainly not the police.
Well, why did they arrest him? Why was he arrested in the first place?
That's an intelligent question, because he hasn't been charged with kidnapping.
But he was arrested for something. The reason he was convicted on this charge of escaping lawful custody. Yes, and was it distraction or something like that? So
the point is, even if he was charged with something, in fact, no, let's be clear. Let's be clear. He was arrested. He was actually taken to court, okay, and then remanded. So you are right. He was charged with something. He was remanded, and then he escaped. He came back, and then he was charged again with escape. He has now been found guilty of that. But how about the original court case for which he was remanded? At what point will that case resume? I guess that's the question we should be asking ourselves. At what point will that case resume? The police, I've got to say, have acted very unprofessionally in the handling of this case. From the dissemination of information, to the lack of information, to the, on some occasions by the Takoradi police, complete dismissal and ignoring of the family members of these victims. There have been many, many instances where the police have simply failed to do their job. And the excuse that kidnapping is a new crime to us, as the president suggested, that excuse does not fly. It does not fly, especially in light of the fact that because we didn't have a clue, we went to bring the FBI, the Scotland Yard, Interpol, and the Nigerian police to help us. So what became of all of that? If at this point, months, I mean August is when the first one disappeared. If at this point we still have no clue how to bring them back home, then honestly, is it not about time the police perhaps put their hands up and said, we've run out of leads, this one is beyond us, so that the families can get some closure, if that is how it must end? I certainly pray that it's not how it must end, because they must bring back those girls. Dead or alive, they must bring back those girls. But they don't appear to have a clue, and they keep insisting that they know where they are, raising the hopes of these family members and then dashing them again. It's unacceptable Unacceptable for the
I
police.
want to just read a bit of what the president said, and it's in quotes in the Daily Graphic newspaper. We need to do something about it so that it does not become a feature of our society, and that the government was determined to resolutely contain the issue. President Akufo-Addo declared the resolve of the government to address the situation when a delegation of Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition called on him. The other quote is, decisions are being taken as we speak. That will be a clear manifestation of the determination I have to deal with this matter, unquote. I'm not sure if this was enough, really. Okay, but yeah.
Yeah, now bear in mind, this is the first time that the president has spoken on this. And I can say this without disclosing my source. Before the State of the Nation address, I went to Jubilee House for some other business, and I spoke to some person who is very close to the president. I was seeking some, let's call it, off-record insights into what I could expect in the State of the Nation address so that we could steer our conversations in anticipation of it. So, you know, he mentioned a couple of things that were going to come up. And I asked him whether we would hear anything about the Takoradi girls, because, you know, we were running our campaign at the time. And he said the president had deliberately not spoken about them because he wanted to speak about them in the State of the Nation address. Clearly that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So either I was misled by the person who said this to me, or something changed and a decision was made for this not to be included in the State of the Nation address. And I wonder which it is and why it's taken this long. And by the way, this was in response to an issue being raised by the anti-corruption group that visited the president. Okay, so if they hadn't raised that issue, how much longer would we have gone without a comment from the president on this? And this is a serious matter. Now, I want to read something to you. Okay, Sewa Mihia, who's a journalist with GH1, has written an article. It was published on myjoyonline.com, and there is a part of it that I just want to read because it really sums up this problem. She writes, and I quote, "It had been thought at the time that this was an open and shut law and order situation, fitting perfectly into the purview of the Western Regional Police Command, who surely possessed the know-how and capacity to unravel it within a reasonable time. Alas, the holders of that view were wrong. Instead of a swift, laser-guided resolution of the crime, we have been served a cocktail of inefficiency, insensitivity, and an overall lack of appreciation of the enormity of the problem." This is the part that really breaks my heart. It seems the police don't get how serious this is. You know, when a loved one dies, when someone you care about dies, it is sad, it is a shock to the system, but at least you understand what has happened, and you have the opportunity to go through the stages of grief and resolve this matter emotionally and psychologically. But when a family member is kidnapped, you are living on tenterhooks for as long as that family member is away. And it is not tenterhooks like you are waiting for the next episode of Game of Thrones. This is deadly psychological torture. You've heard the mother of Ruth Quayson talk about how she wakes up in the middle of the night and turns to see if her daughter is lying next to her. Every night since December 4th. This is torture. Torture which is far worse than death. And it is going on as we speak. To family members who just wish somebody would tell them something. And the police are playing with it. The CID boss says, we know where they are. We know where they are. You're able to announce that to the world without telling the family. You're able to tell us you know where they are without bringing them back. Amavi, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Absolutely. It's about time somebody probed the police's handling of this. I don't know. I would love to hear some state institutions stand up and say, you know what, we need to look into how the police handled these kidnaps, because they're getting worse and worse. There are more of them happening. And now we're seeing, you know, wealthy people being kidnapped. Very soon it will start touching those who ought to be acting. I guess maybe that is when we will suddenly see that they actually are efficient and can do this after all.
Yeah. All right, there will be more on this when we settle for AM Talk a bit later on. But if we do have just a little time, we can do Much Online before we make way for sports. Otherwise, that'll be it for the review. Stay with us. Okay, we've got MuchOnline.com. Here we go. On the kidnappings, police assure expatriate community of safety.
How? How will they guarantee this safety?
Still in the Ashanti region, multimedia group journalists dominate nominees for GJA honors. Authorities of the University of Energy and Natural Resources in Sonyai, they've suspended a student indefinitely for blackmailing female students with their nude pictures and videos. We told the story here on JoyNews. Asantehene thanks God for 20 years reign. TUC readies for 2019 May Day celebrations. Ghana maintains cocoa producer price against IMF suggestion. NAB GLC partner to raise legal education standards. Kolebu Teaching Hospital now HEFRA certified. There are more stories on myjoyonline.com. Decisions being taken to deal with phenomenon of kidnapping. President Kufuor assures we're not creating new constituencies. EC denies that. A 2-year-old boy found dead in pile of blocks, amongst many other stories on myjoyonline.com. You can find time and explore on our page. Making way for sports now. When we come back from sports, we will do AM Talk, and we will tell you how things went down as the NPC met the NPP and the NDC the second time in April.